Welcome back to the Home Team. With me is Dr. Paul Jenkins, licensed psychologist, and he is founder of what your clinic is.
Creation Tree Coaching.
Creation Tree Coaching.
Right.
And he hosts Live on Purpose Radio. And so welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Julie.
You were here a month ago talking about divorce, and now we're going to talk about teens and helping manage the sexual risks that teens face.
What a popular topic.
And it's tough.
Well, it comes up all the time. And there's a real risk there. You said earlier in the show that kids are exposed sometimes as early as age 8 to pornography and to sexual content and television shows and in video games and all kinds of things that they're facing. And it's a real risk. So what can you do with risk? And I talk to parents about this all the time. I think there's 3 things that you can do with risk. And if you'll just picture a busy street, and you want to cross the street because what you want is on the other side, well, that's risky. There's cars coming and going. There's 3 things you can do with that risk. You can ignore the risk. Okay, now what happens if you ignore it? You just put on your blinders and you head out across the street. What's going to happen?
You get run over by a car.
You're going to get clobbered.
Yeah.
Ignoring risk increases danger.
That's something I think surprises parents.
Well, they know that the risk is there, but sometimes they just want to close their eyes. So I don't want to acknowledge that the risk is even there.
Yeah.
Right on its tails is avoiding risk. Now, if you avoid risk, you're going to sit down right here on this side of the street. I'm not going. It's too dangerous. Not going there.
And you never get to the other side.
That's safer. Admittedly, it's much safer, but you never get what you want from the other side. So what's the third thing you can do? Well, you can manage the risk. If we're going to manage the risk, we're going to take a little walk about a half a block that way, push the button at the crosswalk, wait for the signal. You're still not just going to barge out into the street. You're going to look both ways. This is called managing the risk, and it brings that risk down to near zero, okay, or at least to an acceptable level, so that you're not in too much danger and you can still get to the other side of the street.
I like that analogy. It just makes me laugh, though, because I was hit as a pedestrian in a crosswalk. Anyway, well, that's another show.
Well, but that's a good point, because it doesn't eliminate the risk.
Right.
There's still going to be risk there. But what we want to do is manage it and bring it down to an acceptable level.
And it's only happened to me once out of all the times I've
It would be you that had that experience.
I know, really. So I love that analogy. I think it's great because it illustrates what kind of the routes that parents can take.
Right.
Ignore it. And the second one's?
Avoid it.
Avoid it and manage it.
Or manage it.
I love it. So in dealing with sexuality in teens, you can take one of those 3 approaches, and we recommend the third, right?
The risk is really there. What are you going to do? What are you going to do about this?
Yeah. So you have 3 suggestions to help parents manage, help their teens manage these sexual risks. And the first is that sexuality is like fire.
I love that analogy. Is fire a bad thing?
It depends on how it's used, right?
Okay, well, we use it to cook our food. We use it to heat our homes. It's a very useful, very powerful thing. Yeah. But when it gets outside of the context for which it's intended, you get wildfires, you get house fires. It can be very dangerous.
Destructive.
So I really prefer an approach when we're talking to kids about sex and intimacy that we don't label it as being bad or good. Think about this. This is a mixed message that our kids get all the time. Sex is bad. Sex is dirty. Sex is naughty. Sex is nasty.
And your body is too.
Save it for someone you really love.
Yeah, it's like...
What is that? That is craziness.
Yeah.
And the kids are picking up on this. They have natural feelings and natural drives that just come to them as part of their development. Yeah. What are we trying to tell them? Are we trying to tell them that that's bad or evil or dirty? And then in the same breath, save it for someone you love? See how confusing that is?
Yeah, it contradicts.
So we're not going to tell them that it's bad or good. We're just going to tell them that it's powerful, like fire. And like anything that is powerful, you want to manage that risk, right?
Yeah.
You don't want it to get outside of the context for which it is appropriate. And that leads beautifully into discussions about values and standards and the kinds of things that you really want to teach in your home.
Wonderful. The second suggestion is to be comfortable but not casual in your discussions.
Well, how many times in today's program has that come up? when we are so squeamish ourselves about sexuality that's the last thing we want to talk to our kids about.
Yeah.
We're going to bring Danny on and talk to him about that a little more. What level of comfort do we have? And our kids are really going to pick up on that. If you are feeling completely nervous about this topic, do whatever it takes to reach a higher level of comfort. And I said comfort, but not casual, because you don't want it to become something that's just a run-of-the-mill everyday topic either. There's something very sacred, very special, very important about sexuality and intimacy.
I think that's a great point. And finally, it's excuse me, respect your teens' knowledge.
Right, because they already know more than you want to admit.
Yeah, or that they know more than they'll admit to you as the parent.
That's
right?
true. And they're going to be chatting with their friends about things that you had no idea that they have already been exposed to. Respecting their knowledge also means that you don't patronize them. You don't talk down to them. Use correct terminology. And you can do this a lot easier if you've done number 2, which is you reach a level of comfort yourself about that, and that you can actually have those discussions. If it's not taboo, then you can keep those lines of communication open, and you can really accomplish a lot to help your kids.
Thank you so much for being with us again, and we'd love to have you
pleasure.
back. Just a reminder, you can find out more at drpaul.org.
That's right.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Julie.
Danny, Vanessa, what do we have for the rest of the week?